Right. Good afternoon, everybody. I am presenting and also running the slides. So if there's anybody that's willing and able to unmute and let me know whether you can see my slide or not, that would be very helpful.
Yep, we can see.
Fantastic. If at any time my slides are not progressing, because sometimes, as we all have experienced, I'm sure Zoom gets some gremlins in there, please do unmute and let me know. Again, I am both presenting and driving, so I'm unable to check the chat. So do let me know. So let's get rolling. You are here to learn a bit today about the fellowships, scholarships, and internships that NC Space Grant has to offer. And that's what we're going to talk about today. I do want to let you know that this session is being recorded. I'm doing so that I know a lot of students had classes moved to today because of the weather and all sorts of other factors. So I am recording just so that folks who aren't able to attend can watch, as well as anyone who might be in a position to not take notes or wants to go back and listen to anything again. Can go ahead and watch on demand. So if you object to that, you may leave the Zoom now, or you can, of course, turn off your video or your mic or change your screen name or do whatever you need to do that you feel is appropriate. But I just want to transparently let you know that this is recording. I also do apologize for my voice today. I am unfortunately homesick. I'm going to do my best to get through this. If I suddenly mute, it just means I'm probably coughing or something. So do bear with me today. Thanks for your patience, everyone. So this is me. You will see that I am the point of contact for the research, graduate research fellowship, the undergraduate research scholarship, as well as a number of other programs. You'll find my information up on the website under these opportunities, but I'm hiding today because, again, I'm sick and it's just not a good sight to see. But this is me back in middle school during a visit to Kennedy Space Center. I think they still have the ability to, if you ever get to go, to pretend you're an astronaut like I did. But if you ever see me, especially those of you who are coming to the 2025 NC Space Symposium, please come seek me out and say hello. If you do have any questions, again, I'm going to be your point of contact. We're going to stop very periodically throughout this presentation. If you do have questions that are like general for the whole audience, again, feel free to chime in or pop them in the chat when I take a break. Otherwise, if it's something very specific or personal to you, I would encourage you to reach out to me either by email or phone. Okay. So we need to give you a little bit of context about who we are and what we do. And this is important because for those of you who have already perused our webpage or as you'll learn shortly, there are actually questions related to what does your research have to do with who we are and what we do, both for NASA and for Space Grant. So I'm going to give you a little bit of context about that now. So Space Grant is a national program. There is a space grant in every state, including DC and Puerto Rico. That's important, especially because for you all here, know that our funding only goes to students who are at institutions here in North Carolina. But again, there is a space grant in every state. So as those of you consider if you're transferring or going to grad school next year, you would be contacting the space grant in those states. But we do tailor our programs to the needs of our state of North Carolina. And we do so in partnership with not only NASA, but the state of North Carolina, NC State, where my office is based. Our whole team is based out of NC State. And in addition, we have a number of other partners in industry, museums, observatories, and the like. So what do we do? If you are like we are and you think what NASA does is pretty interesting, pretty cool, you want to go check it out a little bit more, this might be the right opportunity for you. If you are interested in building skills in research or teamwork, and you want to do something that's related to the great work that NASA does, this is a great place for you. If you want to gain skills that will prepare you for the workplace, this is a great place for you. Again, and if you are interested in hands-on experiential learning, again, this is a really great place for you. So what we always say is that we're developing the next generation of explorers. And so these research opportunities are all about you pursuing your own curiosities, seeing what drives you and challenging yourself to take it to the next level so that as you pursue your academic and career opportunities, you are prepared to do so. When I walk into meetings and people ask me, what do I do with my job? I somewhat jokingly say, I make astronauts. But there is some truth to that. For those of you who may not be aware, there are 2 astronauts who have come out of NC Space Grant. Astronaut Christina Cook was an engineer out of NC State University. Folks have heard her name quite often. She was the first all-female spacewalk. She was the longest serving female on the space station, and she is the first female named to an Apollo or moon crew. You would have heard about astronaut Zena Cardman, who is going to be a commander for a recent trip. However, some folks are aware that there's a couple astronauts that got stuck up on the space station. So her trip up there got a little bumped. But anyway, she'll be up there soon and you'll hear all about her. She was a science geology student out of UNC Chapel Hill. So we do, in fact, make astronauts. But if you're like me and you're claustrophobic and afraid of heights, then you will never become an astronaut. What we're really looking to do is to train you to become part of North Carolina's workforce, right? So these programs aren't about you becoming an astronaut or even necessarily working for NASA, although NASA is consistently rated the #1 place to work in the federal government. Being part of our program does not mean that you have to become an astronaut or go work at NASA. We really just want to give you the next gen STEM skills to go on to contribute to our economy here in North Carolina or the US nationally speaking. And we do that through providing internships either at NASA or industry partners. You can become part of a team, compete in like a rocketry or rover challenge, or what we're going to talk about mostly today, which is pursue your own research through fellowships and scholarships. Okay, so just an overview again of what the core of what we're going to talk about today is. The undergraduate research scholarships, they're for $8,000. We're looking at funding approximately 10. I'm sure everybody's following the news about federal funding. Until we're told otherwise, this is our plan. Graduate research fellowships, obviously you're at the grad level, a little bit more competitive there, a little bit more independent. Funding level is a little bit higher as a result. Both applications are due no later than 5 p.m. Friday, March 14th, 2025. Absolutely no exceptions. So if I get an email from you at 4:59 saying I can't log in or I got stuck in traffic, sorry, shouldn't have waited to the last minute. I will go ahead and give you all the benefit of the doubt because you're taking the time to be on this webinar today. I do actually keep the system open till about 11 p.m. just because I don't want those emails. So those of you that are smart enough to be on this webinar today, you've got that little sneaky tip. But I do not recommend that you wait until the last minute because there are gremlins, there is traffic, you know, stuff happens. And we're going to talk about the implications also for this next point, which is about the faculty letters of recommendation are due 3 days after you submit your application. The later you do it, and if you do it at the last minute, you're putting your faculty person in a pickle. So again, we're going to talk about that, but deadlines, no exceptions. Okay, enough wagging my finger at you. Okay. I know that some folks did have their classes moved today, unfortunately, because of the weather, which I hope you all enjoyed sledding. I saw some great pictures, I know, out of NC State with some cafeteria trays. But I know I can see some of you. I see Reese, you're there. I see some other people. Charles, I see you're there. I did want to offer our current fellows and scholars the opportunity to pipe on if their classes weren't changed. And you don't have to take it from me. Do any of you have anything to offer those on the line about why you decided to apply for NC Space Grant research opportunities, or what the application process was like for you?
Sure. So can you hear me? Um,
Yes.
okay, so I'll go ahead and start. I think the space grant was just a really excellent opportunity to get external funding outside of my university. So I'm currently a third year undergraduate, doing astrophysics research. And the application, it's really not too long. And if you can get a faculty advisor, it's really just worth applying to, because if you get it, then you just have the external funding. And then I'm sure Sandy's going to talk about it more later, but it's also just a really good network. So I went to a volunteer event last semester, and Space Grant actually had a table set up, and I was talking to them and getting to know them. And they also have resources through like NCC Grant and the other opportunities. And I also know some of the other Space Grant people are not explicitly astrophysics. So one of my friends has Space Grant, and he's doing a marine science project using satellite imaging. So the Space Grant has a really it's a little bit broader than just astrophysics, but it's also just a really great resource for external funding, and then also just faculty and mentors and people you can reach out to.
Thanks, Reese. That's a really good point. Yeah. We talked earlier about understanding who we are and what we do, because one of your essays is having to relate your research to NASA and NC Space Grant. And you'll really find that there's really nothing that NASA does not touch. If you look at the technology, if you look at, it was brought up, the remote sensing, if you look at the research that's going on in the International Space Station, for those of you who may not be as familiar, there's really no sector that space and NASA does not touch. And so if you're on the fence about whether this opportunity is right for you, you do have the opportunity to go ahead and research the NASA mission directorates. There's links all over our website, and they're really easy to look for on your favorite search engine. And so there are a lot of folks who are not sure if Space Grant or NASA is right for them. And I would say it is. There's a place for everybody at NASA. You just have to find where your place is. So that's a really excellent point, Reese. I really appreciate that. Anything else you want to add about the application process itself?
I guess just kind of what I was saying was like, it does take some time to complete, but like if you're on the fence about just doing like applying the space grant, I would just go ahead and do it, because it's not going to be too long to complete, and it's just such a great opportunity.
Awesome, thanks. And yeah, we're going to go over in some pretty clear detail the application process, what the system looks like. And so I'll give you that level of comfort and familiarity that makes this opportunity not so intimidating. I don't mean to throw you under the bus, Charles, but if there's anything you want to add, or any other current scholars and fellows that are on the line that want to add their 2 cents in.
Oh, yeah, I will definitely not pass up an opportunity to just sing praises to the space grant. I think that this has been one of the real sort of, high water points of and opportunities in my program. I had, when I came to NCA&T and decided to do my PhD studies here, I was very aware of Dr. McNair's journey, and how he had been gone to NCA&T, and so he was very much at sort of the top of my mind, and because I watched the disaster in remember in school on the TV. And so I am a big space geek. My dad worked with NASA when he was doing his PhD. It's like in the family. Um, and I can't say enough about this program. It's just been phenomenal opportunity. And if anybody's on the fence, I say go for it.
Oh, thanks, Charles. That's really nice. I appreciate it. Any other scholars and fellows hiding on the phone or on the internet that want to pop in and give their 2 cents so that everybody doesn't have to take it from me? It's just a sales pitch. Take it from our students who get the funding. All right, if not, we'll move on. And I know Charles and Reese, if you guys have anything else you want to chime in on, you are welcome to share your thoughts, ideas, suggestions in the chats. We're very lucky to have you as part of we call it our Space Grant family. And I look forward to seeing you at the symposium. All right, I'm going to continue then. So, I mean, first and foremost, eligibility. This is up on the website again, but I want to run through this a couple points really quickly. We are NASA. It is a federal program. We are funded by US tax dollars. Therefore, you must be a US citizen to receive funding from this program. If you are not sure if you are a US citizen, I always say, are you legally allowed to vote? Do you hold a US passport? If the answer is yes, you're eligible to apply. If the answer is no, unfortunately, you are not eligible to apply. If you are uncertain of your status, feel free to privately email or call me. Quickly, I'm not going to read every bullet point here. We've already talked about how your research has to be related to NASA, but NASA does just about everything. For these scholarships and fellowships, it is a requirement. We kind of go with the NASA standard of a 3.0 GPA. You do have to upload at least your fall 2024 transcripts as a demonstration of your GPA. I'm going to show you how to do that, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more in a few. You have to be enrolled full-time. That's a NASA rule for this. And again, you have to be studying full-time at an accredited university or college in the state of North Carolina. You can be a resident out of state, but you have to be going to a school in North Carolina in order for us to fund you. And you are only allowed to have up to 2 awards per program. So for those of you like Reese and Charles who are already recipients, they can get 2 undergrad scholarships, 2 graduate fellowships, but like that's when they're maxed out. So it's a 2 and a 2. Them's the rules. Okay. But again, eligibility is online. And if you have personal questions, feel free to email or call me. So let's go through some frequently asked questions or facts. So the purpose of these research fellowships and scholarships is to help you acquire new knowledge, skills, abilities, information, practicing tools in a lab, an observatory, something new to you. So I often say, for example, to like a PhD student at your dissertation phase, if you're at your dissertation phase and you've already done all the research, this is not the right opportunity for you because you're going to have to talk about the methodology and your approach and everything that you're going to do over the year. If you've already done it and all you're doing is writing up your research, this is not the opportunity for you. However, if, for example, in order to write your dissertation, you've got to obtain new skills to crunch your data, or you have to learn how to write code, or you're doing something where you're gaining new knowledge, skills, or ability, then that's what we want to see you pitch in your application. It is for a 12-month funded opportunity, and the 12-month research plans, I will say, are strongly preferred. You are expected to conduct research or prep work over the summer, since that is one of the payment terms. However, if you have an internship or you got something else going on this summer and you plan on only proposing for the academic year, you can do that, but you have to explain how you're going to get everything done in less than a 12-month period compared to your other peers. And also, you will not be paid the summer installment since you are not doing work in the summer. So you can pitch shorter than the 12 months, but you have to justify that. And you have to know that you're not going to be paid for the periods that you're not doing any work. That goes the same thing for anybody that may be graduating early in December. If you're planning on researching only December through the end of the calendar year, you're not going to get paid for the months that you're not enrolled full time. That's just the way it goes. I just want to be perfectly transparent about that, so somebody doesn't pitch for an academic year and then complain that they're not getting paid the full amount. You don't work the full time, you're not going to get paid the full amount. That's just the way that it goes. So another question I often get is, I'm a senior now, but I'm going to grad school next year. Do I apply to the undergrad scholarship or the grad fellowship? The answer to that question is you apply for where you're going to be at the start of the fall semester next year. So if you're a senior and you're going to grad school, you would apply for the grad fellowship for next year, even if you're an undergrad now. I'm going to take a quick sip here so I don't have a coughing fit, pardon me. So most of you are going to be doing research at your own university or college, but we understand that some of you may need access to wind tunnels or observatories that are elsewhere. You may do that, but you have to explain that you have access to those facilities and that you are going to be supervised by somebody at those facilities, right? You can't just willy-nilly say, I'm going to go use the observatory in Chile. If you don't have time already booked there and there's somebody who hasn't agreed to that. So we understand that some of you are going to go off-site because, again, you need a telescope or a wind tunnel, but you have to have that in place. Make sure you do so now. Same thing goes with even labs on your own campuses. So as part of your research methodology, if you need certain equipment, you have to get samples or materials, make sure you get them and you have them now. I have seen students called out in their proposal for saying that they're going to do work on like a certain asteroid sample, and then their external reviewers are like, yeah, no way, you are not getting a sample in this timeline that you have proposed you're going to do this work. We'll talk about external review and your point scoring later, but you've got at least 3 experts that are going to, not me, unfortunately. I mean, I do read all your proposals and I love them, but I can't be your reviewer. So I get 3 experts who know the samples or materials or equipment, and they're going to call you out if you say, hey, I'm gonna do some sample, and they're going to say, nope, you're not getting that sample in time. I've seen that happen. So make sure you get all of that set in advance. And finally, I just want to make it clear that NC Space Grant strongly encourages application from all qualified students who meet the eligibility requirements, whether you're at a public or a private institution, whether you're at a small school or a large school, whether you're at an MSI or HBCU. Anybody who goes to an accredited school and meets the eligibility requirements are eligible for this, and everybody is encouraged to apply. Again, there's a place for everybody here at NASA. Okay, application instructions. I'm not going to go over these boxes in total detail. Some of these are the essays that you'll have to respond to, but let's go through a few key points. Read the website, read the request for proposals. There's a link to a PDF for the request for proposals known as RFP. If you're old school like I am, you like to highlight things, take notes, make sure you're doing things correctly. I'm telling you this because if you email me or call me with a question that is in the RFP or on the website, I'm just going to punch you right back to that. So make sure you're taking your time. Sorry. To read everything very carefully before you ask me a question. And then follow those instructions really carefully. I know that some of you are applying to more than one funding opportunity, and that cutting and pasting is efficient. But if you're not specifically answering the questions that are being asked in our essays, you're not going to get maximum points. So make sure you're following our instructions and answering our essay questions. Okay, sorry, sip break here. So also leave time to fill out the details in the application form. We do have an online application system. You'll need to generate a login. If you've applied before, as some of our students have learned, I'm not mentioning names, you have to go create a new login for every year. So go ahead, create that login, give yourself some time to enter, your name, your contact information, your institution. It only takes a few minutes, but it does take time. So rather than leaving it for the last minute, I often like to tease my students and say, hey, put the TikTok down. That is like if we're even legally allowed to use TikTok anymore. But to take the time, it takes like 5-10 minutes to go ahead and create your online account and fill those details in your application form, so that you have them all nailed down and you're not scrambling at the last minute. We're going to go through the application essays. They're right there, transparent on our website, including how many points you score. I'm going to give you some tips about how to do your essays in just a few, so hang in there. We do want you to thoughtfully describe the goals of your research, like why is it important? Why is it relevant? Why does it deserve to be funded? So make sure you're answering that question. You're going to have to clearly explain your research plan and methodology, particularly for undergrads who may be new to this. If you're not really clear on what a research plan and methodology is, you've got about a month to go here. You have plenty of time to research that. You have plenty of time to go back and forth with an advisor to kind of really set those details in your research plan and methodology, including, don't forget, including your timeline for how things are going to happen. I've talked about this already, about aligning to NASA and Space Grant. All of that's on our website. Make sure you're answering the questions about the new knowledge, skills, or abilities you're gaining. And then again, there's a very personal essay about how this is going to contribute to your academic and career pathway. When you do this, it's really important when you answer your essays that you're giving really personal answers. I appreciate that some of you are part of a lab or maybe piggybacking on some faculty research. I'm going to strongly advise you to be very careful in your essay questions to not use terms like that you see in your faculty research. We are going to that. We are doing this. Your scholarship or fellowship is for your research. So cutting and pasting what your faculty or lab is already doing is not enough. You'll get dinged for that in points. So all these we's that you'll see in like a faculty research grant, you then have to specifically say, but I specifically will be doing this for this purpose, and I will be doing XYZ and learning XYZ. So you have to be very careful that you're not just cutting and pasting from something that your lab is generally doing and personalizing it to yourself. In the same way, I have seen applicants get majorly dinged because we can tell when you're using AI or not. I appreciate that AI is getting better and better, but a lot of us review so many of these that, believe it or not, we really can tell when you're not answering the essay questions yourself. And so when you're talking about your new knowledge, skills, and abilities, or when you're talking about your academic and career pathways, you really want to make sure that you are personalizing this and telling us who you are and not some AI version of yourself. The reviewers are not going to be impressed by that, and you will get dinged for it. Okay, so transparently on the website, we are telling you where and how you're going to score these points. They are slightly different for the fellows versus the scholars. I mean, obviously, if you're a graduate fellow at the master's or PhD level, we're really expecting your research plan to be much more in depth. So you're going to score a lot of points up there. Undergraduates, we're really interested in getting to know who you are and why you're doing what to do, supporting you a little bit earlier on your pathways. But we wanted to be very transparent with you about how you're going to score points. You will notice in these also, and I'm going to keep beating on this point, the letter of recommendation, you score points on. So make sure you are working with your advisor who's going to be writing this to make sure that the research you're proposing aligns with the letter that we're writing for you. There have been many instances where the faculty advisor's letter does not match what the proposer is suggesting for their research, and you lose points on that, and that is the difference between getting a fellowship or scholarship award or not. So make sure that not only is your faculty advisor saying how awesome you are, but make sure they're saying, yeah, I know that this is what this student is doing, and here's how I'm going to support them. The more detailed that letter is, the more points you'll get, and that could be the difference between getting an award or not. So some of you may be working with your faculty advisor and identified them already. If not, you've still got a month to identify somebody and work with them and go back and forth. They're going to be really helpful, not only on your letters, but they're going to help you like modify your research plan and like iterate ideas in your research plan. So hopefully all of that is abundantly clear. And I'm actually even going to show you how they upload their letter in a little bit. Okay, so we're going to go over some tips right now, some tips and tricks. So again, those of you who have chosen to be on this webinar, good idea. Okay, so tip number one, go online and do your homework. Like, what do I put in a research plan? What is methodology? What is a NASA mission directorate? What is space grant? Like, all of those links are on the website. It's very transparent. So make sure that you're taking the time to poke around these things, understand them, and respond to them in your essay questions. Tip number two, we get this a lot from previous students or faculty members. We strongly recommend that you write drafts of your essays, either in like Word or I don't care, Google Drive or whatever share kind of functionality platform you use. And use, again, those different drafts version with people in your lab or your faculty advisor. Go back and forth. Doing those will also help you, again, word counts if you're applying for the undergrad scholarship, or page limits if you are applying to the graduate fellowship. And I'm going to show you the difference in those in a few. So we strongly encourage you to like work a draft and go back and forth with people who you trust to review it. I will also tell you that sentence fragments, misspelled words, mistakes in math, our reviewers absolutely check those, and you will get dinged for it. If someone says, look, the math was wrong, or so many words were misspelled, it distracted me from reading the research, you're going to get dinged. So use your tools wisely. I did just mention this, but let's go ahead and touch on this point. Graduate students, and I'll show you this in the system later, you're going to upload your individual essays as PDFs, and you are allowed to include graphs, charts, images. We appreciate that your research is a little bit more in depth and you have that opportunity. Undergraduates, you will not be uploading PDFs and you cannot use graphs, charts, or images. You have to use your words. You'll have 4 different essays. You're going to have to choose your words wisely. Again, I'm going to show you some tips and tricks in the system in just a minute. And then finally, I think we've hit on this enough, but make sure you're asking for that letter of recommendation in advance. I have heard from faculty members that they appreciate at least 3 weeks in advance. Remember, they have jobs, families, homes, lives, and if you ask them at the last minute, I guarantee you that letter is not going to be very good and you're not going to get full points. When you go to them, make sure you have an idea. Even better, have a draft concept or plan in hand. And do use this as an opportunity to cultivate a relationship. I think Reese hit this point very clearly, that one of the benefits of Space Grant is developing that mentor relationship, not only so that they can help you clarify your research design, but at some point you're going to apply to grad school or a job and you need someone to write you a letter of recommendation. Cultivate that relationship. These are the people that are going to be there for you moving forward. And use this application as an opportunity to develop that mentorship. Oops, I'm going to go back here. So I'm going to switch screens, and I'm going to show you now the application system. So bear with me as I try to like exit my screen and navigate here. And I will also, in the meantime, take questions. So I know, Travis, I see you have a hand raised. If Travis, do you have a question I can help you with now?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I was wondering, with the recommendation letters, so should they be talking specifically about the things that we would be putting in our applications, or would they just be talking about stuff related to the program?
So for your application, or I'm sorry, for your
Well,
faculty member?
But for the faculty recommendation letter, would they be
Got it.
should they be mentioning, yeah.
Right. So for us, for example, an ideal letter would be like, hey, this student's part of my lab. I've known them for this many years. Then they're going to write, hopefully, some glowing recommendation about how awesome you are in their lab or in their class or things that you've done. So there's going to be a little bit of, hey, my student's the best, fund by student. There's going to be a paragraph about all of that. Then, if, for example, you need a piece of equipment, they're going to say, I support my student to use this piece of equipment in my lab. Or they might say something like, hey, this student is learning this new coding. I'm going to be supervising them. Or, hey, I have PhD students and they're going to be supervising them in this lab. Like, the more detail they can provide about how they're going to be the mentor, generally speaking, the better reviewed that letter gets. I'm not saying that a faculty member can't write a page of just how awesome you are. I'm sure that will get good points as well. But if they can kind of like say how they are mentoring you, those are the ones that tend to get the strongest points. Like I've said, I have seen some faculty members write a letter of recommendation and what they say they're doing does not match what the student said they were doing in their methodology. And it's like, uh-oh, we something's missing here. And then that's when they get dinged. So hopefully that helps clarify that question.
It does. Thank you so much.
Okay, sure. Okay, so I'm gonna take a minute and look at the chat as well. Yes, we are going to be posting either my last recording or this one, depending on how many times I cough during this recording. So you will have the ability to view this on demand. Okay, another question, should there be a difference between the person your research is conducted under and the faculty member who provides? I'm not sure I totally understand that question. If I'm understanding it correctly, the person who is your mentor for the project should be the person who writes the letter of recommendation. So it's whoever is going to be your mentor, so to speak, for this is the person that should write this letter. So if you're new to a lab and you're cultivating that relationship, you still have a month to do so. It shouldn't be someone from some class from a prior year that has nothing to do with the research you're doing now. It should be the person who's going to mentor your research now. Hopefully that helps. If not, feel free to follow up in a chat. How many fellowships are we awarding? Excellent question. We've got a couple different funding scenarios with the federal government right now that obviously we are working through. I cannot confirm that number right now. My hope is that it will be higher than is publicly aware, but I'm sure everybody's reading the news right now and stuff can happen. So we are planning on going full steam ahead, but I cannot confirm a number other than what was originally put in our proposal. So that is our plan. Okay, another specific question, but I'll see if I can answer it. Joined current graduate program this spring. Before this, it wasn't in school for some time. Don't have a transcript for the fall. I'm going to go over the transcript scenario, but the short situation is if you don't have a transcript for fall 2024, upload all the transcripts that you do have that demonstrate a 3.0 GPA. So I'm going to actually go ahead and share my screen again now, because I want to show you the proposal system itself to give you some familiarity with the system. And also I can show you some of these finer details. So I'm going to go ahead and attempt to share my screen again. And if somebody is kind enough to go off of mute and confirm that you can see the website that says NC Space Grant. Can anyone confirm that for me?
Yes, ma'am, we can see it.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Alan. Okay, so if you click on Google, whatever search engine you use, NC Space Grant, this should be what pops up. Our image may be changing shortly to reflect the image of our symposium, but you're going to get all sorts of juicy information about NC Space Grant, including here where you find our strategic plan that you have to write an essay about, the higher education opportunities that we're talking about today, internships, I'll talk about those in a few, upcoming events like the symposium, news, you'll see like our past research scholars and fellows, so all sorts of juicy stuff. But today what I'm going to do is show you where to find the opportunities that you're applying to. So you'll see the Graduate Research Fellowship and Undergraduate Research Scholarship. And also we're going to have a new C Space One released shortly for those of you that are interested in that. But I'm going to focus on these today. I'm just going to go ahead and click on the Undergraduate Research Scholarship because I get to. So it'll look like this page. And again, the first thing we do is remind you of that deadline and a couple key points up there. You'll see the request for proposal. So again, if you want to click on like a more printed version or even print it out and script up some notes, that's where you'll find this. Links to application system. I'm going to show you the sample application, which basically looks exactly like the application system. And then if you want to look at like what people did like this academic year to, you can look at that. Again, our website's going to run you through, the objective and the overview, why we're doing this, award levels, recap our eligibility, deadlines, another link to the application system. I'll probably put these videos here. Again, we're telling you exactly what the essays in the system are. Tons of links to all the NASA mission directorates and who we are and what we do. Some instructions for your faculty letter of recommendation, including, again, letting them know the deadline as well as the email that they should look out for to upload their letter of recommendation. A reminder about getting your university transcripts. Again, transparency fully on the points that you're going to score, more links to stuff you need to write essays about. And this is one of my favorite sections. I call this the "There's no such thing as money for nothing" section. So if you get a fellowship or scholarship, yes, there are things that we need you to do, right? So if you get the funding, yes, you're pursuing your own research interests, but there are things that we need for you to do, like reporting and presenting, and you'll read all about what the scholarship or fellowship requirements are on the website, as well as in the RFP. And then again, you'll see my contact information on the bottom. But what I want to take some time to do is I want to show you what the system looks like. Obviously, I'm not going to go log in and create a login because that gets a little bit messy for me. But this sample application is basically a reflection of what the system looks like. So when you create your login and you finally get into the system, this is what you're going to see. It's a little bit old school looking, but we wanted to keep it really simple. This is where I told you, like today or sometime really soon, just go ahead and take the time to enter all of your information, your name, your contact email, and address. This address should be your permanent address, like for example, where you file your taxes from. So like we know a lot of you are in a dorm or something else now. What we're really looking for is where in the state are you from? and that includes your congressional district. This is for us just because we report out to Congress. We let them know, hey, Congressman McHenry, you've got 6 scholars in your district. So this is really just letting us know where across the state we are funding students from. So the address that you put in here should be your permanent address. We appreciate, especially for PhD students, that your school address, it has become your permanent address, and that is fine. You would go ahead and put that up there. Educational information, where are you studying? For me, NC State University. This is major, minor. We appreciate that some schools, I know, shout out to A&T and some other, Winston, I think. Winston doesn't do it. They don't have majors and minors. Some of you have programs. You're going to put like what your program is. If you're an undergraduate and, for example, you don't have to, or you have not yet declared, go ahead and put the STEM focus that just is closely related to what you're planning to propose. So it doesn't have to be like a major or minor per se. And most of you won't even have minors. University standing as of spring. So like, where are you now? Are you a sophomore? Are you a junior? Are you a senior? Just tell us the closest approximation of where you are. You'll notice that there's not freshmen. We typically don't have new undergrads applying. If you are a freshman, email me and we'll talk about that. Estimated date of graduation. Again, it can just be expected. I know PhD students, sometimes you don't really know when you're going to finish up your thesis and all that. Just put your expected date. That's fine. You're going to pop your GPA in here on a 4.0 scale. We appreciate that some of you are at institutions that don't operate on a GPA scale. However, a lot of jobs, internships, fellowships, and scholarships do require GPAs. You should be able to contact your academic office and say, hey, I need to know how to convert this to a GPA. And your academic office should be able to help you do that. If they are not as helpful as you would like them to be, again, email me and I can work through that with you. But your academic offices fully understand that out in the real world, people still do ask for your GPA. So this is getting to one of those chat questions about your educational history. At a minimum, you're going to upload your latest transcript. That would obviously be last semester. So that would be fall 2024. You're going to upload that here. If you are just returning to school, as we discussed, if you're transferring from a community college, or like, let's say you happen to have one really bad semester last year and not reach that 3.0 GPA, but cumulatively you do have a GPA, go ahead and upload more than one transcript just to demonstrate that you've achieved that 3.0 GPA. So if you've got the 3.0 last semester, just boop, upload that transcript. If you need a few more, we give you space for that. So hopefully that answers some of those questions. Okay, these are questions for me. Don't panic too much about them. We're just curious to know like how far you plan to go in your academic pathway. We're just kind of like curious what your probable field of study is. These are questions more for me than for you. You're not going to be scored on them. Don't worry. Okay, so this goes to that research mentor question too, or the person that's going to be writing your letter of recommendation on your behalf. You're going to pop in their name, their title, the institution they work at. We appreciate that some of you may be operating under, for example, like a NASA center or whatever. You're going to pop their information in here. Typically, even if you're operating at a NASA center or other national lab, you are still doing so under the guidance of a faculty member at your academic institution. That should probably be the person who does this, but we do appreciate that some of you are like off site for a bit, and that may be appropriate. So if you have questions about who this person should be, email me. Again, this is, you're going to want to let them know the deadline. You're going to want to let them know to expect an email from notices@spacegrant.net. The email asking them for their letter of recommendation is coming from the system, not me. So don't tell them to expect to hear from me. It's going to come from the system. Okay. And so for undergrads, this is what your system is going to look like. Sorry, I got to take a sip there. Title. Don't be fancy, just get to the point. You know, your reviewers don't have time for something cute. They just want to know right off the bat, what are you proposing to research? If you're not sure about what your title should be, work with your mentor, or, you know, we've provided links to past fellows and scholars so you can see what people who have come before you have proposed. That'll give you a good idea what to put for your title. But again, try not to be cute, just get to the point for your reviewer's sake. So all the essays that are on the web page and in the request for proposals or RFP are right here in black and white on in the system, including the word counts for each of them for you. Undergrads, grads, I'll show you your system in a minute. But what you're going to do is you're going to cut and paste your essays here. Again, you can choose to draft them in the system and save. That is entirely up to you. But, you know, for spell checking, word counts, you know, getting feedback from your peers or for your mentor, again, you can write them in the system, but I would encourage you to write them elsewhere and clean them up before cutting and pasting them into the system. Again, just quickly, grads, you're going to upload a PDF for every essay. So your system's going to look slightly different. But again, word counts for each essay, even more links, again, to the stuff you need to respond to your essays for. These are really short essays. So I know some of you are like, oh my God, I have to respond to 4 essays. That's so much. It's really not. 400 words, it's like, get to the point, man. They're pretty short and simple. And I have heard from a lot of students, and anyone online who's a current fellow and scholar can chime in if they want. But writing out these essays really is good practice for you to help you clarify what it is you want to do in your research. Get to the point, keep it clean. That's how you'll score the most points. Here you will see we're just asking you to link to what NASA mission directorate you are most closely aligning to. You can choose one that most closely aligns to you. You can choose a secondary one as well, up to you. Again, if you don't know what a NASA mission directorate is, there are links everywhere. So take a deep dive on that when you get a chance this weekend. Here's that essay about academic career interests. This is where, again, 400 words, get to the point, tell us who you are. This is where we're telling you, like, don't AI this, you have to tell us who you are. That's how you score points. Intended impacts, again, same thing. You're really telling us about who you are. AI is not going to do that for you. Make sure you're being very personal here. That's how students score points. Here, I'm just asking you, are you going to be on campus? And that can mean summer or academic year, or are you going to be somewhere else? We just kind of want to know where you are. And then you're just going to confirm that your research mentor approves your project, and that you're going to have to report out on this in the end. So that's kind of it. Like, this is the part that you're scored on, and we've showed you the points where you're going to be scored very transparently. So that's that. So there is some other information, and this is where, you know, I advised you on the tips and tricks earlier. Leave some time for the system, because here we do need to know if you have any other fellowships, scholarships, internships, particularly from federal government sources. We're going to ask you about that here. This is important because you cannot double dip with NASA. So for example, I can't fund your internship for the summer at the same time I am funding your scholarship. It's a big no-no for NASA. So you have to list all of that now. If you're getting funding from someone else like NSF and it's non-NASA, it is allowable, but you and I are going to have a conversation about whether or not you're overburdening yourself with too much work. Like, I'm happy for you to have 2 scholarships or 2 fellowships, but we are very concerned about your capacity, your physical, mental, and emotional health. We just want to make sure that you are not doing too much and suffering, or your work is not suffering. So we're going to have a conversation about that. We are going to ask you if you're a previous awardee. That's because we have the 2+2 limitations as we discussed earlier. You're just going to talk about that. Plus, you know, we do love students who are already in our space grant family. And then finally, here's some optional information. Again, and this is optional. And this is really just for us. You know, we really want to make sure that we're reaching folks across the state reflective of what our state is. We appreciate that a lot of these categories are old school. They're like the old school federal government categories. We appreciate that not all of you are, you know, radio boxes, and that some of these boxes are, you know, do not describe you as a human being. But this is what the federal government asks for. You do not have to disclose this at this time. That is fine. Again, this is optional. But if you do not mind, please take the time to answer this one about how you heard about Space Grant, because that helps me figure out how we are either best reaching you or not reaching you at all. So even if you don't want to answer these questions, do let us know how you heard about us. It's very helpful. And then this is just a certification. This is like the money for nothing click box. Like if you get the award, you agree that you're going to actually do the requirements of the scholarship fellowship. And then again, you're just certifying that this is as accurate as it can be. Pretty standard stuff. I'm going to quickly just show you two other things in the system, and then I'll open it up for questions again. So graduates, and hopefully my system screen will keep sharing. If it doesn't, do let me know. So you all should see now the graduate fellowship program. I just wanted to show you all the system. Of course, my internet is going a little slow right now. Bear with me. It's thinking about whether it wants you to see it, graduate fellows. Maybe it doesn't want to see it. But if my internet chooses not to behave, all of you may have internets that are behaving. And if you're a graduate fellow, you can go on the sample application, and fellows, you will see where you are able to upload your essays as PDF. So that seems to not be functioning right now. I'm sorry, y'all. My interwebs is having a hiccup. Here we go. All right, so graduate students and PhD students, all the same stuff up here, except for some of this stuff. And this is where you're going to see that for each essay question, you are going to upload a separate PDF. So same kind of like functionality in terms of you're doing the application system, you're writing essays, but you're going to upload PDFs. And you'll notice from graduates on your webpage that you will have page limits rather than word counts. But everything else that you do is going to be pretty much similar to what I just showed you as the undergrad. Hopefully that is clear. Thanks, Alan. Alan says it's clear. So if Alan says it's clear, it's clear. There's one thing that I do also want to show you just for full transparency. I do want to show you if you go to the sample application, oops, now it's not behaving. Application system. Let's see if it behaves here. Okay, here we go. You can also, you'll find it this way. I do want you all to see what the person who's writing a letter of recommendation for you sees, so that you don't think we're asking them a bunch of sneaky questions on the back end. So this is the website that the person who's writing your letter of recommendation will see. So they're going to see their name and their email and whatever you put in the system, they're going to see here. They're just going to confirm that. And here you'll see where they can cut and paste your letter of recommendation. I know that there's some of them have a PDF upload as well, but do tell them to just prepare to cut and paste. That is really all we're asking them. We're not asking them a bunch of sneaky questions that you're not seeing. It's really just a 750 word or less letter of recommendation on your behalf. They're clicking here that they agree that they're going to be your mentor, and they are certifying that, hey, everything I've said here is to the best of my knowledge. So I did just want you all to see what your advisor sees, so you don't think we're asking anything sneaky. Okay, so I'm going to stop my share now. I am going to check to see if there's any questions. Anyone can unmute, or I'm going to go through the chat again. I'm going to take some questions now before we finish the presentation with a little bit more about the internships and the symposiums and stuff. So if there's any questions out there, unmute yourself and raise your hand, or I'm going to try to read through the chat right now. Okay, so I think Madison's a fresh question. For the graduate fellowship, what technical level should the research plan be written at? I would say pretty technical. I mean, these are competitive. There are page counts, so you're going to want to be mindful of what those page counts are, including your timeline. So, you know, we separate the grad fellowships from the undergrad scholarships because we expect your research plan to be a bit more technical. We assign more points to this section because we expect it to be slightly more technical. And again, your reviewers will maybe not be experts in the exact area that you do, but it, like astrophysics will be reviewing astrophysics, engineers will be reviewing engineers. So the people reviewing your proposals are pretty knowledgeable about what it is that you're proposing. I will say, don't get too fluffy. Reviewers hate that. Get to the point, but be as technical and specific as you can be. And again, I will say that these are competitive. So yes, you should write it, not generally to like a general STEM audience. I mean, there is that because again, as I just said, like the person reviewing this may not be an expert in exactly the area that you are proposing to, but they will be, like I said, engineer to engineer, astrophysics to astrophysics or something similar. So I'm not going to have a materials engineer reviewing an astrophysics. And vice versa. I'm not going to have an astrophysics professor reviewing a biomed research topic on the ISS or something like that. Hopefully that makes sense and answers your question, Madison. Okay, going through the chat. Oh, you're welcome. Okay, would current and previous collaborations that are supporting our work carry any merit for our space grant application? I would say yes and no. We want to see that you're gaining new knowledge, support, or information. But like, let's say, hey, I worked in this lab this last year. I'm really into this topic. And as a result of it, here's the next step I'm taking my research because of that. So what you have to say is like, I'm totally into this. I've had this experience. I know I want to do this research, and here's how I'm going to like really dig deep into this research, or here's where I'm taking my research from there. So that's how you might want to answer your question, Lawrence, if that helps. Especially because you have the opportunity to talk about your academic and career pathways. Those essays would be a really good opportunity for you to deep dive into like how your current or previous collaborations like inspire you to do what you're doing. Hopefully, Lawrence, that makes sense and answers that question. Okay, I got another question. This is a good one. I like this question. Thank you, whoever's initials are TP. Does the graduate fellowship cover tuition and fees? So here's the thing. We issue your payment to you, to your bank account directly as a stipend. So it does not go through your university. It does not go through a lab. It goes directly to you as a stipend. So it's not there to buy a computer for your faculty member for their lab. It's once you get your money, it is up to you how you choose to spend it. I will say this, I know there may be some people on the line from Duke who has some pretty tricky rules over there. And you might want to, if you're from Duke, check in with Duke, because I know for Duke that like if you're getting financial aid and then you get a scholarship or fellowship, it gets deducted from what your package is. So you have to work that how you report it to your university out if your institution has specific rules and you're getting aid from them. So again, Dukies, you're going to want to make sure that you're following the rules there. But otherwise, it is issued, it goes straight to your bank account, and how you use it is your business. So if you want to use it for tuition and fees, that is your business. If you want to use it to support materials for your individual research, that is your business. But it is not there, again, to like buy a computer for the lab in your faculty member's lab, if that makes sense. Tia. Thank you, Tia. And yes, Aggie Pride. Thank you, Lawrence. Okay. I love that these questions are coming in. Okay, I'm going to read this other one, Brandon. Okay. So Brandon's graduating and continuing his doctoral studies at University of North Carolina. Thank you for staying in North Carolina. Conducting research in the summer. So sorry, I'm kind of like, I'm reading through his question it's kind of rude for me. Sorry, everybody. So what Brandon is saying is like, he's going to be in North Carolina studying next year. He's doing some research now. He wants to know like what proof is access to that lab. One, you are going to write that in your research methodology section. And then two, I would encourage you to have your faculty advisor confirm that in their letter of recommendation. So if you're doing something this summer and you're starting next year, and that is a rule, you as long as you're full-time next year, you can start this summer, but your advisor should confirm that they're already advising you, and in your research methodology and in their letter, it would be prudent to have both of those things confirm that you have access to that lab as proof. You do not need to submit multiple letters. There's no capacity for that on our application system. You and your advisor should simply confirm that, even if you are based out of state, as long as you're enrolled full-time next year, and as long as your North Carolina advisor is aware of what you're doing this summer. Hopefully, Brandon, that makes sense. If not, we can email or have a phone chat at another time. And thank you, even if you're in South Carolina, you are so welcome in North Carolina. We're happy to have you and we hope you stay. Any other questions out there?
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you very faintly. So speak up and let's see how this goes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Hi, so my name is Alice. I do attend North Carolina A&T. I have
Yay, Aggie Pride.
Thank you, Aggie Pride. I just started my PhD this spring. So I graduated with my master's in 2023, and I don't have a transcript, of course, for the PhD program. And so I wondered, so can I still apply with my master's transcript?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. So we know that some of you are just starting a grad or PhD program. So in the system, you would upload whatever your most recent transcripts are that would demonstrate a 3.0 GPA. So yes, if you've concluded your master's and you're just starting a PhD, it would be appropriate to upload your master's transcripts.
Okay, and another question is as far as like my research is concerned, so I use econometrics and then secondary data to conduct research. Therefore, like I wouldn't have to be in a lab. So there's no need to be in a lab. Can I still cater my research to some of the mission and still like apply?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you don't need to be in a lab. We know that there's quite a few students who are at the like research crunching data phase. But so what you're going to want to make sure that you do in your methodology is say like, you've got the data, but like, what about what you're doing for this fellowship is new to you? Are you learning a new system to crunch that data? Are you comparing it to previous data sets? Like in your research methodology, you've got to be really clear about what it is that you're doing as part of your quote unquote research.
Okay. Thank you.
But data analysis, especially if you're crunching data you've never crunched before, like make sure that you're putting that methodology and approach and timeline very clear in there. But yes, we appreciate that for some PhD students, it's not as hands-on, but make sure, again, like make that crystal clear in your research section.
Okay.
And Alice, they really could have used you last year in that PhD program. They were 3 short of getting that R1 status, Alice.
Really? Oh, maybe we'll get it this year.
Go help them get it, Alice.
Yes, thank you.
All right, any other questions? Okay, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen and just run through a couple really quick slides again for you. So again, if someone can confirm that they can see my screen, that would be super helpful. If my computer cooperates. Can anyone confirm that they can see my screen?
I can see it.
Great. So just a few quick ones, particularly if you are an undergrad. I do want to let everybody know that NASA has amazing internships. The deadline is coming up really shortly on February 28th. If you go to our website and look under NASA opportunities, or the web link is at the bottom of this page. It's got an application system where, again, you're putting in kind of very similar information that you're going to do for our scholarships and fellowships, your contact information and all that stuff. Run through and see what internship opportunities are available. They're really cool ones. We strongly encourage you to apply for a NASA internship. NC Space Grant does partner with NASA to support internships. Often we get requests from NASA. They say, hey, this student applied for this internship. They're really great. We don't have a lot of funding. Will NC Space Grant fund this? And then we either endorse it or maybe not. But do apply for a NASA internship. That deadline is coming up shortly. If you're not ready to do it for this summer, NASA also has internships that run academic year or semester wise, although we tend not to fund those because you're in school and we want you to do our fellowships and scholarships. But just be aware that NASA has amazing internships. So upcoming on Friday, April 11th, 2025 is the NC Space Symposium. It's going to take place at NC State in Raleigh. We are populating our website now with speakers and the agenda for this event. I will tell you this right now. It's a very inexpensive event for students to get access to this type of thing. We've got folks from NASA who are going to be there, folks from the private sector who are going to be there. You're going to have a chance to network and connect with like-minded students. You'll hear all about the research that our current fellows, scholars, and internships are doing this academic year. You'll get to see some of the really great tools and tricks and machines that our teams are working on. So save the date. Registration, if not open now, I think should be opening next week for our space symposium. We would love to have you meet us in Raleigh. It's going to be a really great event. And again, I think for students, it's only like $35 or something. So to have a networking event for that kind of price for a student, I mean, normally you guys go to conferences and they're like hundreds of dollars and you have to travel really far. Think about coming to our space symposium. It's a really cool event. And again, network. And then that's it. We strongly encourage you to follow us on the social media platforms. You'll hear about not only the opportunities that we have But on the socials, when we get information from NASA about other scholarships, fellowships, internships, we will post them on our social media. It's really easy to follow. There's also like a bunch of other like neat space nerd stuff that we post there to keep you on top of like all things NASA and space. So please do follow us on our social media accounts to stay in tune with the latest and the greatest. And that's really all I got for you. So I'm going to just go back over one final time. I'm going to stop my share. Normally, this is the point where I would show myself and ask if there's any last questions. But since I'm sick, I don't think anybody wants to see this right now. But I will ask you if, oh, I see some questions. I'm going to keep answering them. Okay, great. Okay, so for the graduate stipends, how much does the 10K amount to monthly? I mean, take the amount and divide it by, take 12 divided by 10 grand, but we don't pay you monthly. We pay you in 3 installments. There's a summer installment, a fall installment, and a spring installment. For those of you who are awarded, we let you know what those are in your award package. Like typically, for example, for a grad student, it's going to be like $4,000 in the summer, $3,000 in the fall, $3,000 in the spring. So we don't pay you out monthly. We pay you out in 3 big chunks of cash. If you're not researching at any time, you don't get that installment. So if you missed that earlier, if you're not researching in the summer, you don't get that chunk of money. Or if you graduate early in December, then you don't get that chunk of money for the spring. But yeah, it's too complicated to ask our financial people to pay you monthly. We just do it in 3 big chunks. Good question. Any other questions? So again, my contact email is up on the website. You can call or email me with any additional questions if you're feeling rather shy today, or if you have something that's specific and personal. Otherwise, I'm going to give this about 10 more seconds to see if there's any other last questions. Going once. Going twice. All right, I'm going to end it. Again, everybody take some time this weekend, at least create your login, put some of that application data in there, and don't wait for the last minute. Don't wait till the last minute to apply. Don't wait for the last minute to get your advisor on board. And good luck, everybody. I look forward to reading your applications. Take care. Have a great weekend.